Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew here, back for our build review show. It is Saturday, November 2nd of 2024. And on this show, I bring users' builds up live on stream, giving them personalized feedback and advice about things that I think that they can do differently in their builds to help improve their post-contest sim ROIs. We normally do this show Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern. But I went to the Dodgers celebration parade yesterday, so I pushed the show to today on Saturday rather than canceling it. So we have a nice long list of people to get through today. If you ever want to get signed up for the show, all you need to do, drop your DK username in the office hours channel in our Discord server, and I will add you to the list for a future show. So with that said, let's get SaberSim up here and let's jump right in. We have about 7 people to get through today, so we're going to be super busy, so it should be a fun one here. So our first person up is going to be Interrogator, and we are going to be looking at their NBA build from Tuesday 10/29. So let's get this up on the screen and we will get rocking and rolling. All right, so let's let this load, and we'll start in the contest tab as always. All right, so first things first, contest selection looks very, very good, right? We see a nice balance of single entry, 3 max, low stakes, and still getting plenty of action on this day, right? So this is really good. It's exactly what you want to see. Now let's pull up their most entry, the highest entry contest, which looks like it's going to be the mini max here. So let's get this up. Let's go over to users. We see Interrogator here, so they entered 150. So we'll look at other people who maxed out this contest. We'll sort by sim ROI, and let's see what we see. So first thing that I noticed, right, is that this isn't the highest edge contest, okay? So that's one thing to consider when deciding what contest to play. You know, if you were to look at this, and, you know, there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There are 16 people who maxed out this contest that are positive ROI at all, right? So that's a consideration to make when trying to decide what contest to play. But aside from that, Interrogator is a top sim ROIer in this contest, right? They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th on the list, 9% sim ROI. And they have a pretty solid set of lineups, right? So the only thing I would take into consideration here is the only thing that looks kind of off for me, right, is that they have an average dupes of 5, but a lot of these other users average dupes of 2, average dupes of 3, average dupes of 1. We even see like some zeros in here, right? So looks like their duplication is slightly high, which they can probably do something to account for in their build. But before we move on, I do want to check one quick thing here. And I want to see, I'm looking at just the contest selection in the lobby. So it looks like I was trying to see, I haven't really been playing NBA on DK this year, and I'm surprised I don't see like a $4.20 max. I don't know if they're just like not running it or they're running like other contests instead, but I was just trying to see what you could enter as opposed to the mini max, but it doesn't look like there's a ton of other good options here. So I would probably stick with the mini max. I think it's probably the best option. They have the 4-point play here, which is a lot smaller. It probably could be because of like they ran this $8 contest. Like maybe, you know, they removed the 4-point play for the day to hopefully get more people to play the $8. I'm not 100% sure, but just keep your eye out for those things. Anyways, let's go into their build. So let's see what we got. All right, so we see a minimum salary of $49,200 up from, I think, $49,000. So that's not bad. No filters, no rules. 2 lineup filters, projection boost, and ROI greater than 0. These are ones that we talk about regularly, so this all looks good. Using target ROI. So I'm not sure if they used direct fill or autofill. I'm honestly not 100% sure. So let's see, take this off. Let's try the projection one. So just remember that it's cool to use target ROI with your autofills. It does look like they used autofill potentially here with this mini uniques of 2. I'm not 100% sure, to be quite honest. But just remember that if you're using direct fill, it's always better to go contest by contest in this list. That way you don't get an average ROI across all of the contests for your sorting method. So that's just one important thing to remember. They are a little opinionated here with some of their minimax exposures. Doesn't look terrible. All of these are like pretty close to something here, right? Like Podziemski's max exposure is like 2x his ownership. Jokic is like slightly above his ownership. Kuminga is kind of high, but I understand why with all the injuries to Golden State on this day. I think Curry's out. Wiggins was out. Match field on Schroeder. Want to get semi-neutral. So they just like targeted a lot of the Golden State plays here. Matched ownership on some other plays. You know, that's like totally fine if you want to be like, hey, I just don't want to take leverage on this one player, right? I'd rather be neutral to the field and get leverage elsewhere. And I see a lot of that, and I think it's totally okay. So no issues there. And other than that, I don't see too much going on. So really good set of lineups. I think that, you know, you're doing a lot of the right things here, and I really wouldn't be trying to change up too much. So I'm happy with this review. And I would say, you know, bankroll management, contest selection, what you're doing great with already, are going to continue to be your best friends, and until variance swings in your way here. All right, good stuff there. Moving on to the next person, which is going to be AYT. And let's get them up on the screen. We're actually going to be reviewing the same 4-game slate for them on this Tuesday, 10/29 NBA main slate. So let's get this up. Give me a second to get this loaded. And one thing. Okay, good. All right. We're ready to go. So let's go to the contest tab. Contest selection is good, right? Nice balance. Single entry and 3 max. Probably could have played a little more single entry and 3 max here. You know, it's only about making up a little less than like 10% of their total entry fees. So I would have liked to see them play just slightly more, even if that comes at the expense of not maxing out the mini max here, which is totally okay based on what we've seen. But aside from that, let's jump into the mini max, check out their results. Okay, they 150'd it, some ROI. So this is the same. No, this is a different contest. It's possible they opened up multiple of these because I thought this was going to be the same one that we saw Interrogator in, but it looks like it was a different one, even though it was the same day, same size though. So they'll do that. They'll open up the same contest more than once. But what do we see, right? AYT is a top 10 sim ROI here. They are 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, it's not count this top person. They ran a train. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th here on the list, which is really, really good, right? Now, kind of similar to what we saw with Interrogator, they do have an average dupes of 4. and they only have 63 unique lineups. You know, that seems like a trend here on these like 4-game slates. So even for Interrogator, for AYT, for any of you guys playing these 4-game or less NBA slates, I would be doing something to manage my duplication in these contests, right? We talk a lot about like geometric mean or some ownership or filters or rules, right? Any one of those things can be good here on these smaller slates based on what we're seeing in these reviews, right? So aside from that, a lot of the things you're doing look really good. Let's jump into your build to see what you did. All right. Default minimax exposures, 5K lineups, no filters, no rules, no lineup filters, autofill, target ROI, 2 uniques, sorting by prize pool, all the stuff we love to see. No min-max exposures. And this is a super hands-off build. And then it looks like the user late swapped throughout the night. So this is, you know, exactly how we talk about building NBA lineups and being around to late swap. And, you know, if you watch like our how to beat NBA DFS guides and stuff like that, you're going to see a process that mimics this to a T. So I think this is really good, right? The only thing I would add is something to start accounting for duplication so you're not playing such duplicated lineups and you can, one, get more of the prize pool when you win, and then 2, being less duplicated will also help your sim ROIs, right? So you could even get a little bit more sim ROI by being less duplicated. So I would be looking at geometric mean, ownership, filters, and things like that to improve that one aspect. But aside from that, really, really good lineup set here. Like what I'm seeing. So good job. Keep it up. All right. Keeping it rolling here. Got another NBA review coming up. And let's get this up on the screen. So this is GB 1986 coming up here. And let's go and find their last slate. All right. So today doesn't look like they played that day. Okay, it looks like they might have played here. Don't see an entry file. Trying to find the last slate that they played. So I'm seeing some lineups and like some builds, but I'm not seeing any entries files, anything that would like help me to properly review them. Because I don't know what contest they played, so we can't go and review their sim ROIs. All right, so let's just pull this up real quick. So this is GB. A couple of things, GB, right? I think this user was new. So first thing I would be doing, right, when you come in here is I would be, first reserving your entries or entering dummy lineups, which if you don't know how to do that, go to our help documentation and start with this video tutorials reserving entries, right? And then once you do that, you can use the upload entries button to bring in that file into SaberSim to tell SaberSim what contest you're playing. And then once you do that, you can start to use our entry editor, right? Which the other good thing about doing that is that you're telling SaberSim which contest you're playing, which allows us to come in here to the contest that you played and review your lineups, right? So from there, we can get a little bit better sense of, hey, how did your lineups do when we played this slate out 100,000 times, right? The other thing that stands out to me is that if you did use this build, and even if you just submitted the lineups by hand, you didn't late swap, right? Late swap is super important for NBA, even on, you know, this was a 7-game slate, right? This is going to be important. You had 3 games start, and then you have an hour wait and then you have 3 more games, and then you even had 1 more game after that. So depending on injury news, depending on updated projections, updated starting lineups, you're going to want to late swap for these contests if projections change. Now, the best place to get information about projections changing is going to be in our Discord, which there should be a link to join that in the description of this video. And go and check out our NBA lineup alert channels. There's going to be summaries, basically when a sim finishes and the slate is in progress, showing you if a player's projection moved by plus or minus 1 point. And if no players moved, then it will say no significant projection changes. So keep an eye on those things, like around lock. That is really good or really important. Another good source of news is going to be the basketball monster news dashboard, where they're going to be basically showing you players that are outstanding, like questionables, or teams who haven't started yet. If there's news that's up in the air, or when starters change, they note those things. So that's another really good resource that I would be taking advantage of. Last thing here, it looks like you built these lineups very early in the day. This would be like 7 hours before the start of the slate. I would be trying to build these lineups within like 30 minutes of start time. One of the best things that you can do is wait for the starting lineups to be confirmed, which are these green check marks for the teams whose games are starting at that start time, right? So 4 p.m. Eastern was lock here on the West Coast. And once these 3 games that start at 4 have this green check mark, that is a great time to run your final build. You could run one before that just to make sure you have your lineups in. You could even run this one in the morning, come back, run it again a couple hours later, come back, run it again a couple hours later as projections update throughout the day. But you do want to do that final build, or at least check the news in the Discord to make sure that nothing changed from the last time you ran it as far as the projection changes, right? So those would be a few things that I would be starting with here: the CSV upload, late swapping, and running your lineups closer to game start time. That I think will get you moving in the right direction. Also, check out our How to Beat NBA DFS video. And you can check it out in Saber School, right? You come into Saber School, and I believe it should be in here. If it's not, we'll get it up here. So let me make a note, because we do have our first video, but we're missing a couple. So NBA vids, Saber School. But it is on our YouTube channel. You can check it out there. So start there. All right. Good stuff so far. Gonna be moving on to JB, reviewing some more NBA action. And let's get JB up on the screen. And I'm not sure the last slate JB played, so we'll go check out some recent stuff. Check out yesterday. Not seeing it. 30th, 29th. Okay, let's try one more thing here. Trying to find a slate for JB so we can review their results. We're about halfway through our list here. We've done 3. This is our 4th, and then we have 3 more after that. So we'll just keep knocking these out one at a time. All right, try this again for JB. Looks like they played the NFL main slate yesterday, so that's good. So let's get this pulled up. All right. So let's go to the contest tab. So JB played 3 lineups in the $8 150 max contest. JB and I have gone back and forth a lot about their contest selection. I'm always recommending lower stakes, more entries, right? Because for $24, you can get a lot of lineups down in, across a number of low stakes contests, but not going to harp on it too much here. JB knows my opinions there. Second thing is that he did run a late swap, so that's good, right? He is late swapping his contest throughout the night. Let's see how his 3 lineups did. All right, let's go over to users. Got JB. So always, whenever you enter less than the max, do greater than or equal to the number of lineups you entered. Enter 3 lineups. So good news, right? 65% sim ROI is a good number here. Some of the highest sim ROIs are like 150% plus for people entering such a low number of lineups. Now, what stands out to me is that they have this average dupes of 6. So they have a really high sim average score, which is nice, right? That's a very good number. But they're playing very probably chalky lineups that are getting duplicated at a high rate, even on a 7-game slate like we saw yesterday, right? A lot of these other top sim ROIers, 0 average dupes, 1 average dupe, 2 average dupe, maybe 3, right? So 6 seems like a lot. So we got to do something to account for duplication, even on this slate of the way that the user is building lineups. So let's jump into their pre-slate build. All right. Default minimax salary, 5K lineups, no filters, no rules, no lineup filters. They are using 99th percentile as their sorting metric. You know, I probably wouldn't use 99th percentile over ROI. And the reason for that, right, is that a lineup's ROI is going to come from their 99th percentile finishes in the contest sim, right? Their top 0.1, their top 0.01 finishes. You get even deeper into like the, numbers there, right? We're not just looking at 99th, we're looking at 99.5, 99.9, right? With the contest sim, you get an even deeper percentile than the one that we're using here. And then aside from that, not only do you get the percentile, but then you also get all of their cashing rates. So you get a nice blend of like cashing, winning, and just the overall amount of money that the lineup won, right? So I would not recommend using 99th percentile over ROI, since ROI takes that into account, along with a number of other things that are important here. So that's my first thought. Second thought here is that they're not using any min uniques. Now, when you have 5,000 lineups and you need 3, your lineup to pool ratio is over 1,000 to 1, right? So it should actually be very easy to get to a very high number of min uniques here. And the less lineups you play, the more you should want to diversify them. So I am of the thought that this user should have tried to increase their min uniques here to get to a more diverse set of lineups. And in this set, they're using 14 players across 24 roster positions, which isn't terrible, but there are a couple players showing up in all of their lineups, which I would like to see that a little bit more spread out, right? So that's one note there. Other than that, doesn't seem like they were very opinionated in the build. So, couple things here, right? Wrapping up, contest selection, would like to see something a little bit different. Glad they are running a late swap. Would like to see more min uniques of playing a small number of lineups and a large pool size, and would recommend using ROI over 99th percentile and accounting for duplication, right? Starting to account for duplication via geomean or ownership or one of those options are going to be really good. If you guys don't know, don't know where to start, go to our support docs and check out this video called Geometric, How to Ownership Product and Ownership Geometric Mean Work. We'll drop it in the YouTube chat. And I would start there. So there's a couple thoughts for you. Other than that, 65% sim ROI, good job. Keep it up and continue to improve. All right. Keeping it rolling. Next up is going to be Renegade. And we will bring up Renegade on the screen. We're going to be doing NBA as well. So let's get this up. And let's see if they played yesterday. Let's try Thursday, no. Wednesday, no. Not seeing them. Let me try one other thing here. Got one other idea. All right. So let's see if this works. If this doesn't work, we're in trouble. Oh, I think we got something. All right. Let's get this up on the screen. We are good to review Renegade. So let's go to the contest tab. Contest selection looks solid. Exactly what we like to see here. Let's check out this larger quarter jukebox. Go to users, Renegade, 20 lineups, sort by sim ROI. So this is great, right? 95% sim ROI. The highest sim ROIs are somewhere in like the low hundreds here, like 100. If you're getting like 110, you're doing really, really well. So they're right there, right? This is really good. One thing I do like is that their average dupes is 1, right? 15 out of 20 uniques, 19 out of 20 under 5. This is really, really solid, right? This is not something that we've seen with some of the other users that we've studied to this point. So not sure if they're doing something to account for that up front or how that's working. But I think that's really, really good, right? So nice to see the average dupes being low. Now let's go into their build that they ran 11 minutes before the slate started, which is good. All right. We see 5K lineups, default minimax salary, no filters, no rules, target ROI, autofill, no minimax exposures, 2 minor adjustments to projections, no adjustments to stack types, team stacks, game stacks. We see min uniques for all of their contests. The only other thing I would be doing here, probably, I would recommend is sorted by prize pool. So just putting those higher prize pool contests first. It looks like they intentionally put their single entries first, which is okay, right? That's a fine strategy. So not a huge deal there, just one small piece of advice. But other than that, you can see their aggregate metrics, right? We see some geo-mean aggregate metrics. We see projection. We see salary. So it looks like they're being dupe conscious here. So this is good to see, right? Just having those visuals, making sure that everything looks good. Maybe they're doing the geo-mean calculation for their contest and have like a number that they're keeping in mind around their average. So this all looks really, really good. I'm super happy with this process, and I really wouldn't be trying to change too much. So really good stuff, Renegade. Keep it up. All right. 2 more to go. Next up is going to be Black Mamba, and we're going to be looking at Halloween Day NBA over on FanDuel. So let's get this up. And FanDuel is always a little interesting studying these FanDuel slates since we don't have contest flashback, right? Got to do our best to estimate how good a process is. So let's go to the contest tab and let's get this up on the screen. All right. Taking a couple shots in the flagship. Totally cool. 2 lineups in the $3 as well. And then focusing most of their action on the lower stake. So I think this is a fine split here. The only thing I don't see is any single entry or 3 max. I would be trying to get some of those in. FanDuel does have some good contests. Like they have some good $1. They have a $2, right? They have a couple 3 maxes. So I'd be trying to mix some of those in. Now, looks like they have like a number of builds. I do see a swap build here, so that's good. Looks like they ran multiple lineups throughout the day, which is fine, right? So like this is what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, hey, you can like run a build, come back and run another build, and then another build, right? So it looks like the build 5 was the closest one to slate lock. So we're going to go to build 5 here. Increased min salary slightly. No filters, no rules. Some lineup filters. ROI greater than 0. Projected points. That's good. Looks like they use direct fill. The only thing, which I think they're doing this right, but just remember if you're going in direct fill, go contest by contest, one at a time here. That's going to be important. Looks like they're using one unique, which is like probably fine. Let's go to their player table. 1 min exposure to Devin Booker, 1 to James Harden. Couple small adjustments, nothing too drastic here. Nothing that, seems bad at all. No changes to team stack exposures, anything like that. 2 min exposures in the centers tab, which there's like no flex on FanDuel. See, this is one of those times where it's actually okay to do these in the positional columns, or maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. It depends what their eligibility is, right? So like for someone like Sengun, it doesn't actually matter if you do it in this column or the alt tab, because his only positional eligibility is a center. But see, this 5% on Brandon Clark actually doesn't really do that much, because it's 5% in the center slot, but the builder could just say, okay, fine, you don't want to play them in center, I'm going to go play them in power forward instead. So your options are to do the max exposure in both, or to just do the max exposure in the all tab, which I would recommend. Just going into all, filtering by position and going position by position from this screen is going to be a lot easier. All right. So we've basically reviewed as much as we could here. Now, my only concern would be that based on what we've seen on DraftKings, I would assume that your lineups probably have some amount of duplication that you want to account for. So on these 4-game slates, I would be accounting for duplication in some way, shape, or form, and I would be adding that to your process. But aside from that, I do think you're doing a lot of the right things here, and I would continue to do what you've been doing. I would be applying mini uniques as you go contest by contest as well. I don't know if one is a number that you're using or if one is just the number being shown right here. So that would be one thing to consider. But other than that, start accounting for duplication. A lot of the other parts of your process look good, and I'm pretty happy with what I see. I would probably say that this set of lineups most likely grades out positive ROI. Just my gut take. All right. The last one up today is going to be Sammy. We're going to be reviewing some Thursday night football showdown from this week. It was a pretty interesting Thursday night football game. If you guys caught it and were not out trick-or-treating, Jets looked really, really bad in their first half. And then all of a sudden they came to life and ended up playing pretty well. So, and winning the game. All right, so let's get this up. Go over to the contest tab. Pretty standard contest selection for Sammy here. So nothing unexpected. Let's jump over to users. All right, contest loaded. Users who entered 20 lineups, sort by sim ROI. So Sammy's negative 4% in this contest. I think that's a step back from where we've been. Sammy's been increasing slowly. So what do we see? Top sim ROI, somewhere in like the 40 to 50% range. Now, good news is his dupes are a lot lower than some of these other users. He's at 13. But I think the bad thing, right, is that his projection is just a little too low at 85.6 here, as opposed to these other sets in like the 90 range. We're seeing like 87 to like 92. So just a couple points too low on projection. But that's okay, right? That can be corrected. So let's go into their build that they ran. And don't know why I'm not seeing lineups, but we can look at some of these other things. So Sammy typically likes to drop max salary. I think that's a fine, like quick and fast rule. Filters, couple rules. I don't even know what a leprechaun is. I don't know what this means. Okay, use exactly one flex player whose ownership is less than 20. Okay, I'm following you now. Sleeper captain. Use at least one captain whose ownership is less than 20, greater than 3. So I don't know if I love that rule. And the reason is, there is typically a reason why a player is owned at a pretty high rate there. And completely fading them, right, is a huge stand against them, right? It might be worth just setting a max exposure to like half of their ownership or something like that, or seeing where they come in naturally. Just understand that it is a very aggressive approach to just X out the highest owned captains, because there is a reason they're getting that ownership, right? I mean, look at the value for Mixon and Breece Hall. They're the only 2 players on the slate with a value over 2 points. Everyone else is in the 1 range, right? So the ownership is warranted, and I don't love the idea of just like full fading it to full fade it, even though it would have worked out, right? I mean, Garrett Wilson was the optimal captain, I believe, on this slate. So just some thoughts there. All right. Pretty hands-off in the Minimax columns here. Sammy's been known to set a lot of Minimax exposures in the past. So honestly, where I would probably spend some time, because I'm not seeing a ton of stuff here that actually I do think the low projection comes from fading Breece Hall and Joe Mixon, because they grade out so well value-wise. Like, you fading them just automatically tanks the projection that you can get to. And I think it just puts you outside of the band there, right? But I think something you can do is you can go into your contest, right? And like, to get some ideas, it's like, okay, the highest sim ROI sets of lineups, how did they handle the highest projected captains, and what did they do? And then that'll give you some ideas about, hey, is this a good idea the way I'm handling it, right? So what I would do is come in here, sort by maxers, sort by sim ROI, and let's just go to somebody who has like a little bit lower set, like this Corey Bradley person. They look interesting. So we go and we magnifying glass on them, and then we go to projections, and then we go to their exposures, and it's like, okay, how did they handle this, right? Well, 17 of their 20 captains were I think you can do this, and you could even do this on a bigger scale. You don't even have to look at your contest. You want to go and look at the top players in the lobby. Go and look at the flagship, right? Go and look at, the 150 max, and go look at people who are maxing this out, right? Spending, over $2,000 to max out this contest. People who probably have large bankrolls from being successful players for a very long time. You can get some ideas about how they're handling this, and take some thoughts away from that, right? So we go look at people who 150 max. Some of the top players here, right? Elusive Smoke, Millie Maker winner with Saber Sim. We see a bunch of other big names here as well. So like, hey, let's go and see what Elusive Smoke did, right? So magnifying glass on him. Go and check out his captains. I don't think this contest loaded properly. Let's see if we can reload it. Because now I'm in on this, right? I'm sold. I want to find out the answer. Huh. I don't know what went wrong, but lineups aren't loading right now. I probably messed something up. So you guys can check this out. But I think the point gets across of studying top pros and seeing how they're handling a certain situation and taking some things away from there, right? So I think that's where the low projection comes from, which leads to the low ROI, Sammy. So consider making some updates there or some changes to your process. But with that said, that was our last person signed up for today's review. So appreciate you guys tuning in on this Saturday here. Plenty of people tuning in. I did have to move the show. So our next show will be on Monday. A lot of people like to get reviews after the weekend. So I will be doing a 5 p.m. Eastern build review show on Monday. If you guys want to sign up, all you got to do, drop your DK username in the office hours channel in our Discord. I will add you to the queue for Monday. So until then, everybody, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.